Jefferson again, straight ahead. KJ Jefferson lays the wood. Jefferson, end zone for the win. Touchdown, Hogs. Arkansas finds a way in the swamp. Tyrone Broden, the hero.
Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio networks on 106.7 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm your host, Porter Hayes, and alongside me is Adam Hall. We're also brought to you by Bet Online. Get the latest odds, lines, matchups for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting. Your favorite casino card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Get in on the action. Remember to use the promo code BLEAV for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And as we just seen, the big time run by KJ and then the touchdown in overtime. Arkansas defeats Florida 39-36 in overtime. Huge win. Nothing but joy after the game. Adam, I'll go to you. What was your thoughts leading up to that missed field goal and then carrying over in overtime?
At the end there, I was in the, oh, here we go again. I just didn't see it going in our favor, just for, recent past or program past, whatever. I just assumed the worst. But then there was new life. And then even going into overtime, you're just kind of like, you're almost waiting for something not to go right, something not to go our way. That's just how it's always seemed to have been. But then, especially with getting the penalty and then pushing us back to a 1st and 20. But I mean, seeing KJ, he put, the team, the game on his legs, to get that, or, so for the 19-yard, 20-yard rush. I don't remember what it ended up being, but that, and then even, I think that is overlooked or overshadows even the Rocket Sanders run where he almost went down but stayed up on his feet, hand on the ground, and kept going to get inside the 5. Those two plays and then the play that won the game were just absolutely crazy.
You look leading up to the missed field goal. You had the forward progress, and I want to apologize to our fans for my vulgarity because I was in the moment. It was bull crap. He was still moving forward, and you could just sense as soon as it was almost like somebody went to punch the ball and he blew the whistle. Like if you just watch it back, they were about to punt. That was a complete fumble. So you're like, first of all, you're like, here we go again. Refs are screwing Arkansas, and they still almost did, because then you fast forward to the end where they didn't let Arkansas get substitute. Should have been a 10-second runoff. But then, the commentators were saying something about with the play clock not being already started or something. They kind of got a loophole out of it. But still, yeah, two times where they almost screwed Arkansas. And thank goodness the guy missed the field goal. You're just thinking, he had the dead on all game long, missed the field goal. We go into overtime. And then magic happened, and it was just like, thank you. What we've been needing, the fans, this is what we talked about, and just the will of the team to win, just like that rocket run. That showed they wanted to win. That second effort, that it was like I was saying, man, I wish I'd have seen this last week, the week before. But now we're seeing this fight. They win out, they can win a bowl game. Now, last game of the season against Missouri is going to be tough. They look really good against Georgia. But man, that's the difference. And just seeing them, hug Kenny G and just that excitement after the game, Sam Pittman, it was a new, fresh breath of fresh air, and just the overall new what we were wanting, that fresh start.
Yeah, they're in the 4th. There were some questionable calls because, they call the play dead when we're punching it out and they want to call forward progress. But then on Florida's, I think it was 4th down, not too long before that, they gave Florida forward progress to get the first down, but he was clearly stopped behind the line. And he was stopped there and then got a push. I'm just like, so you called this one forward progress, but then you called this one dead. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, and on that one fumble by Arkansas, which was a fumble, they let that one go a little bit longer and allowed Florida to knock the ball out. I mean, he was stood up and then he kind of moved forward a little bit and then they punched the ball out right there at the last second. So it's like you got to give it both ways. And, for Arkansas to overcome that first SEC win, first win in Gainesville, I mean, the fans can actually look at this as a legit win. We're not getting our first win against FIU, 2 weeks down the road. We're in a position now where you're carrying this momentum. You're coming back home for the rest of the season, and you're getting Auburn. You're opening up as a 3-point favorite against Auburn, so we'll see how that goes. But Arkansas did apparently suffer an possible, more than likely, season-ending injury in Ty Washington. How crazy is it? Same injury, shoulder, first offensive series, same kind of thing that happened to Luke Hasz against A&M.
Yeah, you really don't obviously wish for those things, but it's just crazy that it's almost, if not the exact same injury that Hasz went through. You just hope that somebody behind him has that next man up mentality, whether it's Gums, whether Nathan Back steps in somebody. Because that position is big in the scheme of Arkansas, the way Arkansas typically does things. But I'm anxious to see how they carry this into the Auburn game, because there was times early on in the Florida game that I just, there were some frustrations you could tell on KJ's face. I saw, the look in his eyes that we've seen the majority of the season, just kind of here we go again. And I was kind of in that doom and gloom, if you will. But, these guys rallied and picked themselves back up. They weren't going to go down without the fight.
Me and you talked, before the game. And I told you, I said, look, when they get to a 14-point lead, now's the time to lay it on. And then they answer back. It's 14-all. You're like, that's when I'm like, all right, something needs to happen. Something needs to change. And then it was just a battle back and forth, missed field goals, by Cam Little, which if that win would have just moved the ball the other way, it would have been through the upright. And then he booms one that would have been good from 65, it seemed like. But the biggest thing was you could see when you're talking about Rocket, when he was in, we were going to talk about the blocking. You could see what happens when a seasoned back is in there, how he was able to pick up the blocks in key moments. He was able to fend off some people where, KJ was able to get out of the pocket. He was able to run. He was able to get the throw off. And look, the offensive line didn't play all that bad. He did get sacked. There was some times, but, you could just see a whole different fight in this team. And I'm telling you, maybe it's all it needs is to just give this team some confidence and go out there and block better, play better, run better, and it still was a gutsy win. There's still the things that you can improve on, but when you're 2-6 and 0-5 and you get a win against Florida, look, you got to take this win and then worry about what you need to work on next week. Enjoy the win this weekend and then get back on the practice field. And same with the fans, enjoy this win. Well, let's worry about what we want, what we're hoping for next week, starting tomorrow. I think this deserves a 48-hour rule on that.
Yeah, we still gave up 5 sacks, but that's going to happen. Unfortunately, it just sucks that, it's happened most of this season. One in particular, Chamblee stood up and he just watched the guy blow right by him and sack it. It was just like, what are you doing? But there was a determination in Rocket that, with his injuries earlier in the season, that you didn't see it. He had a burst that you hadn't seen either. I know one in particular, I think it was the 19-yard gain that he had off the right side. He looked like the Rocket of old. That, that's what we've been missing. But yeah, he was one. He's picking up blocks, he's picking up corner blitzes, and that helped out tremendously. It gave KJ time to roll out or just stand up in the pocket.
And also, we go back to Kenny Guyton and, the confidence now he's gained. Look, you could tell, and this is not a scapegoat. I know I was really hard on Sam Pittman and stuff, how they addressed the Enos thing. And I was just judging things on what we were looking at the time. It's easy to say, well, he's the problem. You could just see a fresh of urgency. He had total trust in Kenny to call the plays. Look at the locker room afterwards. They embraced him. I mean, that it doesn't matter the skill set of Kenny Guyton. If you get this talented team that you don't have a team that's 3-6 talent-wise. These one possession games, swing them the other way. This is an 8-2, 7-2 type team, I should say. But that's the biggest key when we're looking at, you get these guys in there that can buy in, because that's where you're going to get your recruits. If you could come here and win, and you got a guy that has the energy like Guyton, who he's got something to prove. You got a guy that's never called a play before in his life. He wants that job. So guess what he's going to do? He is going to call his ass off. He's going to do everything in the power to be like, there should be no doubt. Look what I've done. And I know we're just talking about one game. I'm not ready to pull the interim tag off him yet. Let's see, because it's almost like what we talked about when you bring in a new quarterback. You see what you don't know what they're able to do, so you don't know how to adjust to them. Let's see how Auburn plays them. If we get the same output and he does this and they start rolling, or if they build momentum, then I'll be like, I think he's the guy. I'm not saying he's not, but I want to see how he really does against a team that has some tape on him now before they pull that interim tag off of him.
Yeah, you saw some trust. You saw some connection between KJ and Guyton that you hadn't seen under Enos. You just, even though KJ got frustrated at times, he just looked more comfortable. I feel like the team looked more comfortable than they have. And then, it's only one game, but at the same time, you put up 481 yards of offense on the number 34 defense in the country. This wasn't like this was some 60, 75, 100 ranked defense in the country. This was, a top 40 defense that they put up almost 500 yards of offense on.
And you look at, and this is, I know I'm going to throw a name out there and everybody's going to kill me, but I'm talking about in his peak. This is what Brett Bielema wanted out of an offense: 200 and 200. 200 yards total offense, rushing, 200 yards in passing. He wanted that balance. You got that. I mean, you had in the offensive side, you had 226 yards rushing. You take away KJ's sacks, you had two 100-yard rushers. KJ had 113 yards rushing, and Rocket had 103. But with the net gain loss, KJ was at 92 yards. So you almost had two 100-yard rushers. And then we have Andrew Armstrong with 103 yards receiving. So they had 255 receiving, 250 or 226 on the ground. Can't get more balance than that.
Yeah, and with Armstrong too, it looked like, he may have hit his head on the turf. He went to the locker room immediately, but came back out shortly, gave his family a thumbs up. So we were all happy to see that. But yeah, the balanced offense, if you look at it, you don't know where the attack's going to come from. Yeah. So, especially me being a Baltimore Ravens fan, I'm used to the 50-50. You got a quarterback that can run. But, even games like today for Baltimore, Lamar Jackson didn't throw a touchdown. So you find those scores and those yards wherever you can. And it throws people off because they don't know what to expect, on any given down. Is your quarterback going to go? Or are you going to throw it? You got a running back that's, for Rocket to come in after missing, 5 games, and having over 100 yards was huge.
That again, that shows you, one, he was wanting to prove people wrong. And I'm not saying the majority, but there was people out there that was comparing him to Nick Smith Jr. They're like, he's just going to hold out and, and rightfully so. I could see the similarities, so I'm not going to say people were crazy for thinking that. But he wanted to come in and he wanted to come back and finish strong, because if they win out, there's still a goal to obtain. It's not like, say they lost the game yesterday. We could be talking about a whole different situation, on the obtainable goals.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a goal to obtain. Look, and I'll tell you what, we don't have to accept a 6-6 season, guys. And I want to make this very clear before I make this statement. We don't have to accept that they just made a bowl game this year, but we can be proud of the fact that this team sitting at 2-6, 0-5 in the SEC, turned this thing around and made a bowl game. Both statements can be true, because yes, it was disappointing. They just made a bowl game and was 6-6 or whatever. But for them, where they were at, losing you got a first-year coordinator in January. You're midway through the season or at the bye week, and he's gone. So look at the magnitude of those losses and gains, trying to get a new start, and you fall to 2-6. He's gone. All the turmoil. You lose your starting running back. You lose your starting tight end. Now you lost another one potentially. And for them to be able to gain momentum, and if they turn this thing around, I'll be nothing but proud, take my hat off to them. But like I said, we don't have to accept as a program that they just finished 6-6 this season, or if say they don't beat Missouri 5-7.
Yeah, and I mean, the people, the fans, we see a lot, especially doing what we do and running the pages and the groups that we run, and the people that are still at this point, I mean, 9 games into the season, calling for coaches to be fired. It's not going to happen at this point. You got rid of the offensive coordinator. Just wait till the end of the season to see what happens. The rest of the season's going to play out how the rest of the season's going to play out. So the constant fire this position coach, or he shouldn't return as head coach, whatever. Nothing's going to change right now. Just hope that this team continues what they did on Saturday and finishes out the season strong. And then look at this, going into the offseason next season, then have those conversations, because we don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. And, we could all sit here and speculate, but let's just speculate and predict and talk about what's going to happen these next 3 games.
And, just think about what we're talking about. And I put this kind of question out there. Guyton comes in and proves himself as an OC. He does very well. And you see an improvement on KJ. What if he comes back? What if he wants a redo from this year? What if he wants to, try to get to 8-9 wins? What if he wants to make sure he is cemented on top of every record, but you finished 5-7 or 6-6? And I'm sorry. Yeah, he's got pro on his mind, but I think KJ is one of them that, what I told y'all before the season, he wants to go out as the greatest quarterback that has ever played at the University of Arkansas. And I'm just my opinion on things, just because you've played 4 years and you have broken all these records, if the best that you got is a 9-win season, and then you finish your last year at 5-7, 6-6, it's hard for me to put you at the top. It's just
there's still a handful of guys that are seniors, redshirt seniors, that still have their eligibility that can come back. So I think that the next 3 games is going to determine a lot of that. You do have a handful also that are, super seniors that aren't going to have eligibility. A lot of them are the transfer ins, but you've still got, 9, 10, 11 guys. Some, have significant playing time. Some you probably don't quite know who they are, but at the same time, you've got a lot of leadership and a lot of veteran players that could come back if things go, how they went yesterday.
Yes. And that's another thing, all these players, look at KJ's position. If he does come back, you got 2 guys, freshman or at tight end. You got 2 tight ends, and you're talking about this. You give them another year in this program where they can focus on blocking. You get an overhaul on your offensive line, and you get an offensive line that can come in and block for you. You got a running back that can start blocking for you. And then you do nothing but win on top of that. Now there is a gamble to it because, I mean, again, you're playing Russian roulette with this, because if things don't go the way that you want, and you come back for your fifth year, and you're still 6-6, 7-6 because of the new schedule and all that, now we're back at square one. So, I mean, I know that I'm just going to throw hypothetically out there, say they do beat Missouri, get bowl eligible. Of course, the chances are he's going to sit there and say, I'm coming back, or it's leaning toward it, because you're in the emotions, you're in the moment, so you just got to hope that, and then again, he might not want to come back. We got a backup in Jacoby Criswell that is sitting here learning. He's sitting there chomping at the bit. So we can put all of our trust in him as well, because we know he's a good quarterback and he's getting to learn. So what better person to learn behind than KJ?
Yeah. I mean, whoever decides to come back, you hope that they do it. I feel like they would do it for something to prove. The season didn't go how anybody had planned, predicted. So, you really you want to send these guys out on a high note, and there's still the uncertainty of, okay, they come back and, well, what happens if the same thing happens next? I mean, you never know, but these guys, could look at, okay, are they going to transfer? Are they going to do anything wherever they're going to transfer, or even get playing time? Because the grass is not always greener when these guys transfer out. And then they have to look at, where do they stand in the NFL draft prospect world? If we've seen players announce that they're going to come back and then don't. Isaiah Joe did, and that was one of those things that, we were all on the high horse. He was returning, and then he ended up going to the NBA, and it worked out for him. So, which I know the NBA is a completely different world from the NFL in that aspect of getting drafted. But, these guys have their futures to worry about. So whatever their decisions are, it's their decisions. These are business decisions for these guys.
You're looking at the roster right now. You bring back your field goal kicker. You bring back your punter. You bring back one of your key linebackers. Then you get the ones that have been hurt, McAdoo. You get Oz back. You get Washington back. You get a lot of people, Thomas Jr., I mean, when you look at the Landon Jackson Jr., Rocket Sanders Jr., I know that might be a far-fetched deal, but again, going back to that point, what if those two guys want that redo? That's what I'm thinking in my head, that they come into this season, they were projected to be the best duo in the SEC. KJ was supposed to be the best quarterback. Things didn't work out with the offensive line and the OC. And they want to go out winners, and they want to go out to prove this is what I can really do. And this is a package deal. Now, NIL truck might have to back up. You know what I'm saying? That's just where we are in the world of college football. But to keep it might, like I said, with Rocket, it might be far-fetched. It might even be far-fetched for KJ. But, man, you could get those two guys back. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, out of the bunch, whether it's juniors or whoever's eligible for the draft. I mean, Landon Jackson, Mel Kiper had him as the number 1 defensive end prospect in the country on his draft board. So when that happens, you strike it while it's hot, because you never know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah. I was just looking at the roster and potentially who could come back. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll finish off the Florida talk, and then we'll move on to some more basketball talk. Soccer and women's basketball gets started this week. So we will be right back after the break. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store, with locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville. Our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you in need of legal representation? Look no further than the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson. As the oldest law firm in the River Valley, we have been serving our clients for over 100 years. Locations in Ozark, Fort Smith, and Smith. Our experienced team of attorneys provide expert guidance and advocacy in a wide range of legal areas, including personal injury, family law, criminal defense, and more. Trust in our history and experience to get the results you deserve. Contact the law offices of Robertson, Beasley, Shipley, and Robinson today at 479-782-8813. That's 479-782-8813. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are put in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. And want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. And we'll move on a little bit to the Auburn game before we move on to other sports. Auburn coming off a 31-15 win in Vanderbilt, moving them to 5-4 overall, 2-4 in the conference. So another winnable game. And yeah, it's funny saying winnable game. Now we can say that because of the performance against Florida. This is at home. And I'm telling you, just how much momentum you gained winning in a place that has never. This is one of them where we talk about 48-hour rule. Adam, I think this is going to have to be one of them where they're going to have to completely shut that down and truly focus. They can't let this be like how so many people are just saying that everybody's Arkansas's Super Bowl, or there's so many Super Bowls that Arkansas plays in and other sports, I guess, because Purdue was saying that was their Arkansas Super Bowl in an exhibition game, So you got to put this game behind you and really focus on the Auburn game, because you got to take this one game at a time and you got to win out.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I mean, we've talked about actually a few times this year, after the LSU loss. Was that the best game we're going to see? Did they leave it all on the field? How is that going to carry over to the next game? So now, flip the script. Okay. So now you're riding high. First, team in Arkansas history to ever go into Florida and win. You hope. I feel like these guys would, come practice time, that's going to be all eyes on Auburn. They move forward, they put it behind them. It's okay. What's next? Who's next? They move on from the win this past Saturday.
Yeah, and I don't know really what to take from the Auburn game, but Jaquez Hunter had 183 yards rushing on 19 carries. So, I mean, that's good news for Arkansas because of the way their defense have been playing. Yeah, they've given up a couple of gash plays on the ground, but Peyton Thorne was 17 for 27, only had 194 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and was sacked twice. I know, again, we're talking about Vanderbilt, so maybe coming off of that win against Florida, now this defense is charged up because now they have more confidence in their offense. I mean, that was a thing we talked about last week of how much more of this defense can they withstand and keep carrying this team on their back and then not get support from the offense. Now we're seeing it can happen.
Yeah, looking at, Auburn on the season, just comparisons in FBS rankings compared to Arkansas. Points per game, they're at 70th. We're at 66. Both of us are averaging over 27 points a game. Their turnover differential is 32nd in the country. We're 45th. So I think this game, in the aspect of just where it gets down to how even the teams are, on paper, stats wise, I mean, they're pretty even when it comes down to yards per game, how much yards given up per game, points per game. So it's going to be, I think, just who has the better game plan and who executes better, which I know is like any game, but there's not any one area I think that either team is just, so much further along than the others.
Yeah. And that's, this is going to come down turnovers, 3 and outs. Look, and this is one thing I really didn't want to critique about the Florida game. Look, you've got to make sure that with a team like this, Auburn, they win, they're bowl eligible. So there's a goal for them to obtain, just like with Florida. If Florida would have won, they were bowl eligible. So you're going into a game where that is a goal to teams. All right, we're bowl eligible. Let's move. We attain this goal. Now, where do we go from here? Auburn's coming in. That would put them at 3-4 in the SEC, 6-4 overall. This is one of these things where Arkansas is playing with house money. They got to win out, or it's a wraps on bowl eligibility. I know they let some 5-7 teams in per se. I don't know how much that's changed when it comes to how many bowl games there are. But this is a very important game for Arkansas to keep the momentum. Look, you had a very good win against Florida, but I'm telling you right now, it's only going to last 1 week if you lose to Auburn, because we're going to be right back down to where we were. You got to keep this going. You've got to keep the momentum going. Of course, we have a Chris Corley says, if Sam is retained next year, wouldn't Guyton have to be the OC? That's for him that goes back to what we said before the break. Let's see how he does when people have a game plan on him. Let's see what Auburn does and then Missouri before we're just ready to give him the OC. But the way the players have responded to him, the way he's responded to only doing this for 2 weeks per se, because of the bye week, it's looking very promising. I'll tell you this, if this man goes on a run and they go 4-0 and they make a bowl game, yeah, you lift that tag. You lifted that tag because this man has brought you back out of the ashes again. I'm sorry, call me a prisoner in the moment, but you got to give him that tag.
Absolutely. And I think that would be the scenario that, the right thing to do. There's so much questions around it. It could go either way. I mean, it would be, if they won, let's say, they only won 3 more games, or including this last weekend, but we missed the bowl game. And, I think it would have to be still hardly looked at as to how much has the offense progressed under him in those 4 games. And do you want to risk, losing, whether it's players, whether it's confidence, whether it's, whatever it may be, because you bring somebody else in, and then if you brought in another OC, I would then question who he would retain. Would you then lose Kenny Guyton to somewhere else? I mean, there's a lot of questions, a lot of touchy situations in that.
Well, you brought up a great point. That was letting the season play out. So, and when I say lift the tag, I mean, look, we've seen Missouri's a damn good team. If Arkansas beats Auburn, they do what's expected and they run away with the FIU game and they compete and play a tough game against Missouri and do come up short, I still think you give them the tag, because I'm telling you, you can't judge him for losing against a very good team. They hung with Georgia right till the end. And we can't sit here and say, well, after 1 game, we're not going to lift the tag. And then after 1 game or Missouri game, say, well, he's not the guy for the job. You can't. So we got to take this 4-game. This is your audition. Let's see how you do in these 4 games. He's passed the first test. Let's see how he does next week against Auburn. And again, I want to see how he does against a team that he's really supposed to win big against, because you learn more from that just as much as you do the tough games. How do you handle putting the pedal to the metal and really, getting your guys in there and then developing your team, your second string, and these guys that really get these rest your starters for that big battle that's coming against Missouri at the end of the year.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going to happen over these next, this next month, if you will. So I just say take it right now for hopefully the team's taking it, one game at a time, which I think they are, one day at a time, one practice at a time. I don't see any, I just see more likely, if they win 3 games, definitely if they win 4 games, I mean, you pull that interim tag.
Yeah.
And, I know that there was question when Guyton took the interim, what about Jimmy Smith? Just because he's called plays before. But, I figured that those were conversations that were probably had behind the scenes that we aren't privy to. And, I think, Guyton was the one that was ultimately decided was ready for this and probably would have the most, I think that he probably had the most connection with the previous offensive coordinator in the sense of play calling, with the players that we have and everything to make it an easier transition.
Oh, definitely. Because look, I think if he wanted, I think that discussion would be out of the question, because Sam Pittman had that choice.
Mm-hmm.
He could promote any of his guys. Who do I want my play caller to be? He went with Guyton. You can't. I mean, I guess you could, but you're really going to piss some people off, because if you give Guyton the keys to the car, he drives this thing with a full tank of gas and gets you where you need to go. And then you're like, oh, we're going to hand it off to this guy. I think that would be a piss poor move on Pittman, because you had the chance, say it was Jimmy Smith. And I'm not saying this to start any controversy, nothing. So anybody's quoting me, or don't take it out of context. I think if he would have said, I want Jimmy Smith to run this team, he would have let him have the keys for the 4 games. And then, I mean, that's where I'm looking at, you can't. So, before we switch subjects, I do want to share that Top Tier State, they are going to be having a tailgate at, they will be outside the Garden. So if nobody is familiar with Top Tier State, look them up. They got 560 some odd thousand followers on Instagram. They a clothing company. So they reached out to us to promote and let everybody know that we would be, talking about they're going to be right next to lot 56 in the Gardens. Stop by. They said they're going to have a lot of food, merch, come hang out with them. So definitely want to give them a shout out, and hopefully we're looking at a true 71. Now that's what I want to ask you before we go. Do you think there's 72,000 people in the stands next weekend?
Absolutely. If we had lost Saturday, I think you would have been down in the 60s. I think it's going to be a packed house come Saturday, just to see if they can continue, and especially it's your last 3-game stretch. Your last 3 games in Fayetteville this season. So I really think that it's going to be a packed house on Saturday, especially being a 3:00 game. It's right in that sweet spot for people. So I think that they're going to be, ready to go fan wise.
And we'll switch over to soccer now. Arkansas soccer made it to the SEC championship, I think 7 out of the last 8 years. 0-7 in those championship games. They fall 1-0 to Georgia on an on goal by Malum, and it was really close. I mean, it really was close. It could have been a Georgia goal, Arkansas on goal, and they did decide to give it to be an on goal. Georgia come out hot, pressuring. I don't know what it is about these tournament games that Arkansas just has such bad luck in it, but I want to say this right now. Look, they're SEC champs, regular season champs. They got an SEC championship. They're making it to the tournament finals. You had 3 people get injured in this game, small injuries, but you had White, Potagil, and I can't remember the other one that was injured as well or hurt. But Colby Hale doesn't put a lot of emphasis in, and this is not an excuse. This is not, of course, you want to win. But this is not to excuse him for anything. But he stated He doesn't put a lot of emphasis in these tournaments because the long goal is to win a national championship. The long goal is to get that seeding. And that goes like what we're talking about with baseball and basketball. If you think you need to improve your seeding, you're going to play hard and you're going to try to improve your seeding. I think Arkansas is pretty much locked up what seed they were going to have. We're going to find out this week, their seeding. But congratulations to Georgia. Made one hell of a save. I mean, Tankersley had, with like 27 seconds left, had a chance on a handball violation by Georgia. He had it. I mean, that was going in, and the defender, I can't remember if it was the goalkeeper or one of the defenders, stuck their foot out the right second, and it just popped it out. And then Arkansas, the irony, they had a handball to end the game. So, but look, tip their hat to Georgia, first ever SEC tournament championship win for them. But I'm not hanging anything on Arkansas can never win that championship game because you're SEC champs. You go to the tournament, that's extra 4 games, and you're trying to end goal win a national championship. So I don't know about you, but I would take a national championship over an SEC tournament championship. I'd take an SEC regular season championship over a tournament championship.
Oh yeah. I think the SEC regular season championship is more to hang your hat on than a conference championship or conference tournament championship. But you've got coaches in place in multiple programs that know this, that understand this, that get their teams prepared for the national scene, not just your conference championships. You know, we've seen it in basketball. I mean, you know, you don't want to lose these games, but at the same time, you're getting prepared for the national tournament in whatever sport it may be. So, you know, if it's you lose, then you just rest and get prepared for what your seeding's going to be and go from there. I mean, I think everybody would, you know, take a national championship over a conference tournament championship.
Well, and I think the same people that want to sit here and complain saying Colby can't win the big game is the same ones that get on Dan Horn for never winning the SEC baseball tournament. It's the same situation. These guys have been around a long time. I mean, Arkansas overall right now is 14-4. They were 8-1-1 in the conference. I mean, that was, you know, they tied and lost one. And so I guess technically it would be 8-2-1 if you want to consider this a conference game, because they did get beat by Auburn 2-1 earlier in the season, but they got a revenge game, I should say, on that. They beat them 4-0 in the first round of the SEC tournament. Also this week, women's basketball starts. Adam, this is going to be one of the most anticipated seasons I want for them. The depth, the team, they play Tuesday night against Louis and Monroe. What are you excited for when it comes to the basketball team this year?
I mean, for Michaela Daniels coming back, I think she's got a lot that she wants to prove for herself and for this program, for Coach Neighbors. She's one that, you know, her coming back is huge. The depth of this team is ridiculous compared to what we've seen in the past. You know, it's one of those you questioned in the past, like, okay, if this person goes down, then who's going to come in and replace it? Or how are we, you know, where are we going to make it up? But now it's just, you have so many different players that can come in and give somebody else a break. That, you know, Michaela's not going to have the ball in her hands, you know, 90% of the time. There's actually, you know, there's going to be other people to run the offense, to let her play off the ball. And so, you know, I'm anxious to see, you know, how they go. And, you know, like everybody, I'm kind of anxious to see, you know, this press that, you know, Coach Neighbors put it out there early on in summer. And the reason he did so, like he told us here on Hog Talk, was he said it so that his coaches and the team could hold it to him, that he made sure to implement it.
Yeah. And they, like you said, with the depth, they have the true depth that they need. They're 4 deep at guard. You got Carly Keith, Celia Scott, Mac, and Sam. So you can go 2 deep at that position. You know, we're looking at the whole with Saylor and Sasha. You're bringing back all SEC defenders. Emory Ellis is dealing with the arm issue. She should be ready to go here in a couple of games. But man, Dowda, 100%. Look, watching her play, I'm telling you, look, her mid-range jumper is cash. That's the only thing I can say about her mid-range jumper. And then being able to shoot the three and that confidence, and her having that confidence on her knee. Poffenbarger, coming back again, lethal score. When I asked her that we had the media availability, and I told her, I said, look, you wear your emotions on your sleeve. I said, if I can critique anything about your game, that's the one thing. Just because you hit a couple of shots or don't hit a couple of shots, you can see the frustration. It really affects her game. But so I'm really looking forward to them. I mean, basketball full swing. I mean, look here as we present you with our Razorback sports schedule for the week. Go on our page. We'll have it up. You can see every sport that's going to be going on from Sunday to Saturday, the times and where you can see it on TV. I know we get that asked a lot. So we're going to start pinning this to the front of our top of our Facebook page. So if you need any questions on who's playing, what channel, where, we're going to have you covered right here with our Razorback sports schedule. It will be updated every week. So really looking forward to this month of sports. I mean, we got this Thanksgiving holiday season. My wife and I, we've already got the tree up and everything decorated. So she had Hallmark movies on. So that's what it's Christmas in full swing in November, and it was 82 degrees today.
Yeah. I was looking at this when I was looking at the week schedule. I looked at Friday and I was just kind of like, we are in full swing because you had that 10:30 a.m. women's game that we have every year. And I think that's the game that the elementary schools are invited to. And I was just like, I was like, it is here and ready to go.
I went to my very first year covering the team. And listen, you got 7,000 kids and they are giving them sugar. They're giving them candy and Coke. They're telling them scream after every point. This game, it could be a 40-point game, but you think it's a tie ball game because they're screaming after every basket made. It's really fun that they bring in the kids all over from Northwest Arkansas to see the game. But yeah, it's definitely one of their highest attended games of the season. But yes, it's one of them. If you're there, want to go to the game, be mindful. There's going to be about 7,000 elementary kids there with you, so you might want to bring the earplugs or any kind of earmuffs or anything like that if you're very sensitive. But great show tonight. I want to welcome everybody who come and always, we love the fans who interact, ask questions and comment. It's the best part of our day. The ones that have been, interacting with our question of the days and everything throughout the week. We really appreciate every one of y'all. So Adam, you got anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I mean, like he said, we appreciate all the feedback, all the comments, all the interactions. I mean, that's what really keeps us going. The shares, if you don't agree with something that we say or post, I mean, comment.
Yep.
I think we're both, quick to respond. We don't have to agree on everything. So, you can always catch us here, catch us in Hog HQ on Facebook, wherever it may be. We are, literally at fingertips away, linked away.
That's right. Well, that will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Again, always brought to you by Bet Online, Arkansas Brewing Company, and the Buzz Radio Network. We will catch you later on this week.